The chord and arpeggiation parameters in the polywave mode are much the same as they are in the SD multi-sample mode, if you're already familiar with that, but we'll run through them here again as a refresher. So basically this offers automatic chord generation from single notes from MIDI or single notes from a CV gate input, and arpeggiation then, rather than playing all the notes of the chord together, plays them one at a time. So the first thing we need to do to get this started is to enable chords, chord enable there. Now, chord key, that's going to give us the root note of the key, so C, D, E, whatever, let's just stick in C for now. And then you've got a number of scales available to you to work within: major, minor, and a few other ones. But we'll leave it in major for now because I'm feeling quite happy this morning. And then things get interesting when you start activating the different chord shapes. So none, one note gives you one note, octave. You get 2 octaves every time you press a key. 2 octaves, sorry, you get the root note and the 1 octave, and then 2 octaves mode, you get the root note plus 2 octaves above. So you can see in here, every time you trigger it, you're getting 3 notes. Root and a fifth, so that's automatically playing a G when I play a C, it's automatically playing an E when I play an A, so on. That plus an octave, and then a triad. So I'm getting C, E, G there. Triad plus an octave, suspended fourth, plus an octave, sixth, sixth plus an octave, seventh, so we're getting a bit jazzy now, seventh plus an octave, ninth. So that's 5 notes every time I press one key. And then that's it. So let's go back to, I don't know what, let's just go back to triad plus octave for now. So that's through MIDI, CV gate. I've got Rene here with a sequence, so let's I'll just have one for now. Start the sequencer. So there we go. So I've just got single notes coming in from the Rene, what I've got chords going on. The octaves ones is a convenient way. If you don't actually want a chord, you just want basically a sub-octave on your sound. That lets you dial that in fairly straightforwardly. Let's just stop that for a minute. And then the last one with the chords is the inversion. So if we're on, let's put it back to a triad. So an inversion, basically, in the first inversion it's C, E, G. The next inversion up was going to change that to E, G, C. And then the next one up is going to be based on G. So it's the same notes, but just shifted around in the octaves. And of course you can map all of these things to MIDI or CV control so that you don't just have to dial one in and live with it. You can have this changing during a patch or a performance. But we'll go back to that. Now arpeggiation, there is a mode and a range, and there are 3 pairs of those, 3 modes, 3 ranges. That corresponds to the 3 possible CV gate pairs that you can put into it. The MIDI input uses mode and range 3. So I'll just, while I'm playing MIDI, I'll use those. So your arpeggio modes are all the ones that you might be familiar with from other things: up, down, out, which is up and down, out 2. The ones with the minus octave, but that means that if you've got a chord shape which has got the octave at the top, so for example C, E, G, C, and if you extend that range to more than 1 octave, the arpeggiation modes with the minus octave in the name basically skip that repeated note as you go up and down. you can easily hear the difference, probably better than me explaining it. And then, of course, at the end, we've got random. So let's go for up. Now, possible source of confusion. A lot of MIDI arpeggiators, you hold down some notes and you give it a clock and it arpeggiates over the notes you're holding down. That's not how this one works, because it's primarily designed to be useful when played by CV gate, where you might just have one CV gate input and you haven't got a big keyboard to play multiple notes. So basically what happens is, if you turn the arpeggiation mode on, then rather than arpeggiating over the notes you hold, it arpeggiates over the note in the chord just by pressing the same key over again. So just to clarify, if I took the arpeggio off, because I've got chord mode on, I'm getting that chord. But if I turn arpeggiation on, then I've got the same notes of the chord, but I get a different note every time I press the key from that chord. Which makes less sense in MIDI, as I say, but in terms of CV control. And now I'll go back to this is CV gate pair 1, so I need to use mode 1. So there we go. So that's possibly more what you'd expect it to be doing. CV gate coming in from the sequencer, and it's arpeggiating over the chords. It's just, yeah, so now those two notes are the same. And then we can explore the arpeggio modes, possibly up, down, out, out 2, which doubles the note at either end of this pattern. Up minus an octave. Now this is the one I mentioned a minute ago. So if you go to triad plus octave, and this is the time to put on the range. So this basically extends the pattern over multiple octaves. So you can hear, because we've got triad plus octave, which is C, E, G, C, and if I extend it over 2 octaves, I get C, E, G, C, C, E, G, C. If I put the mode to the up minus the octave, I don't get that repeated note. Down minus octave, similar. Put the range up to 3. And so on. So lots of scope for fun in here. So as I mentioned, the different CV gate inputs have different arpeggiation parameters. So if I set this running, which is chords, and I'll have input 1 arpeggiating. That's this one. And just to be clarify, maybe let's turn all these off. Right, so that's our just normal arpeggio going on there on the X input, and then we'll put something into Y. And let's have that going down. Okay, and then we'll make the pattern a bit to fill in the gaps. Anyway, what you can possibly hear is that the first pair is going up, the second pair is going down. But it gets quite interesting once you have them both going on at the same time and let them both going over a different variety of notes. Possibly worth knocking some notes out of the quantization here. Limit our options. Quite a different range to one of them maybe. So yeah, you can get some nice kind of generative patterns running there. Just going to flip the delay on as well. Anyway, so yes, that's the chord and arpeggio settings on the Poly Wavetable synth.